Welcome to FailCraft, the podcast where we dive into the messy, real side of success and explore how setbacks, failures, and challenges become the stepping stones for growth, clarity, and purpose. I'm your host, Ezekiel, and today we are joined by Shaun Guardanapo. He is a United States Marine Corps veteran, a former law enforcement officer, and the managing broker of the Agency Reno. With over $100 million in career sales and more than 150 transactions, he's a top 1% producer in one of the most competitive luxury real estate markets in the country. He uses the discipline, integrity, and client first ethos forged in the military to lead his team and guide clients through the chaos of the Reno-Tahoe market. He's here to share the messy reality of luxury real estate, the leadership lessons that actually translate from the core to the closing table, and how to survive in an ego driven industry. So, Shaun, I am honored and excited to welcome you to the show, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Ezekiel. I'm happy to be here.
It's great to have you here, Shaun. So let's dive in already. So, you transitioned from the highly structured environment of the Marine Corps into the, chaotic transactional world of luxury real estate. So when you first, stepped into that competitive civilian business environment, was there an undeniable moment of failure that forced you to, realize you had to anchor your business in your military values just to survive the industry's default mode of prioritizing the deals over the person?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. So I was going from military and law enforcement where I had a salary that came in every 2 weeks, to something that was completely foreign to me, working off a commission and having to legitimately earn a paycheck. If I didn't sell a home, I wasn't getting paid. And that was a huge fear going from something that was steady, you know, I knew I was getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. I knew exactly what my paycheck was. I knew exactly what my budget was. I knew exactly where I was spending my money to not knowing where I was going to get my next paycheck, when I was going to get my next paycheck, which bills I was going to pay, how I was going to pay them. And it was a complete and total shock to my system. So, I just had to do what I was taught in the military and just buckle down and grind. And that's what I did for the first couple of years was just buckle down and grind. I was fortunate enough that I had enough communication skills being in law enforcement and in the military that I could communicate fairly easily and fairly clearly with anybody. That's one of the biggest stepping stones when it comes to real estate in general is just communication. You have to talk to people. You have to, figure out what their needs and wants are. You have to figure out what they're looking for, and you have to be a listener. So, with my background, that gave me, I think, in my own opinion, a little bit of a head start than everybody else because I knew how to listen, I knew how to communicate, I knew how to process what I was hearing. And direct that into what my future clients were looking for and needing and wanting. But the biggest hurdle was, yeah, where was my next paycheck coming from?
All right. Sean, thank you for sharing that with us. So, you led a team of agents as the managing broker at Agency Reno. So, in an industry notoriously known for an incredibly high amount, an incredibly high burnout rate and cutthroat competition. So, what was the most uncomfortable truth you had to teach new agents, about what it actually takes to perform under pressure?
So I left a fairly large real estate team to be the broker over at the agency. And so I had to lean on my experience and my leadership, not only through previous real estate experience on the team, but also through the military and just teach them how to be patient, teach them how to communicate, teach them certain ways to do things, best practices, because everybody comes and they have their own ideas and thoughts. And everybody's own ideas and thoughts are great. And if you can take just, one or two things from someone else and implement it into your own system and it makes it 10x, then that's the goal, right? So a lot of the people that I brought over originally had experience, not very many new agents. I did take on a couple brand new agents and I had to teach them just kind of like what I knew and how I learned and what was successful for me. But after that, it was more of honing their skills and getting them to hone their skills so that they could be successful. I've always been the type of broker that's like, hey, I'm always available for you guys. If you have any questions, there's no dumb or stupid questions. Just ask me. I'd rather you ask me and we work through this and we find an answer than you try to guess your way through things. There's always an answer. There's always a way to make things work. There's always a way to get the job accomplished and get the transaction closed. We just have to be creative. And it's I like to say that there is no. I don't accept no for an answer. Very, very, very rarely is no an answer where you can't make it work. There are times where it does happen where you can't make things work because things are out of complete control and it's, a third party that is doing something that can't make it work. But 9 times out of 10, there's a good chance no matter what, if you communicate, if you process it, if you think about it, you don't give up, you think about how to be creative, you can always make things work.
Okay. So, Sean, when maybe a highly lucrative deal completely falls apart and at the last second, how do you use the how do you use military precision to keep yourself and your clients from spiraling into a panic?
We just talk about what's next, right? It's not the end of the world. We figure out what went wrong, how it went wrong. We address how and what went wrong, and we figure out how to fix it to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And we move forward. It's not the last house, right? There's thousands, tens of thousands of homes out there. We can find you another one. It may take time. We may not be closing tomorrow, but we just go through a process that is very structured, a process that is logical, and a process that will have an ending to it that we know will work for everybody. Like I said, 9 times out of 10 things work out, but if that one time does fall out, it's just a matter of communication. I just had one that nearly did that because of miscommunication between here and someone my sellers were selling here and they were buying in another state and there's, 3 or 4 parties involved in between and there was just lack of communication. So all I did was take the initiative and instead of contacting the 2 middle people, I just went to the other side and contacted the listing agent on the other side, and we made things work, and her client got calmed down. We made things work. We did have to extend a couple times, but we got the deal
Mm.
closed. We made it work, move forward, and everybody is perfectly happy now. It's communication that really is the key component in everything, whether it's life, relationships, job, work, anything. Communication just keeps everything flowing.
All right, Sean. So, a lot of people assume that being a top 1% producer means you have everything perfectly figured out. So I'd like to know what's one expensive ego-driven mistake you see agents making, when they finally start to hit those high-end price points, and how does it destroy their reputation?
Again, I think it's ego and it's communication. You get to a level and you start coming across agents that just think they're better than you. They don't want to communicate. They use assistants, they use whatever the case may be, someone else to communicate, and they don't actually communicate. And then it creates problems. I mean, there's a lot of bigger producers than me in the area. They have the property listed and you try to communicate with them and you never hear from them. You never talk to them. You talk to their assistant, you talk to their transaction coordinator, you talk to, someone else, but you can never talk to them. And you're like, no, I need to talk to this person. And it's ego. Some of these people just the ego gets so big that they lose touch of what really gets things done. And that's just communicating every day like a normal human being with every other human being on earth and making the transaction work. And ego, when you get a lot of money, ego starts to take a huge effect. And if people can get out of their own way and understand that everybody is the same, we all have the same end goal, I want to sell a house. You want to sell a house. The buyers want to buy the house. The sellers want to sell the house. The lender wants to finance the house. The or the title company wants to get it closed. If we all work as a team and we communicate, it's very easy and it's a very simple job.
All right. So, Sean, you balance serving ultra high net worth clients, with helping first time home buyers and fellow veterans. So, how do you maintain the exact same level of strategic negotiation and integrity, when the commission check is drastically different?
It goes back to treating every individual as a human being. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're the janitor or the CEO of a company, it needs to be respected, right? Everybody has the expectation that they need to be respected, and it's about respect. It doesn't matter if you're buying a $50 million home or a $50,000 piece of land. Everybody, all my clients get the same respect. They get the same type of communication. They get the same kind of person that I am. At the end of the day, you don't know if that person that's a first time home buyer, they might refer you to someone that is going to buy a $60 million property just because of the way that you treated them, the way the transaction went, the way you respected them. And so you never know where your next business deal is going to come from, right? So we have to treat everybody the same. You can't treat someone special because of their status. Maybe they get a little bit different things. Maybe things get handled a little bit differently. But as far as like the respect and the communication and the way you do the transaction, it's got to be consistent and it's got to be transparent and it's got to be coming from the same place because everybody deserves the same amount of respect.
Sure. So, the luxury real estate market is shifting rapidly with massive growth and migration, shaping the Reno-Tahoe area. So, when the market dynamics becomes incredibly volatile, so what's the biggest leadership blind spot you see brokers missing that eventually causes their teams to fracture?
I think it's knowledge, right? I think knowledge is a big thing. People get to a point where they don't want to learn, they don't want to adapt, they don't want to change. I've been doing it this way for 20 years, I've been doing it this way for 10 years. This is how we do it here. But markets change, markets shift, education changes, laws change. So it's a matter of staying on your game when it comes to knowledge. I'm always the type of person that's checking articles, listening to podcasts, reading, different magazines that come out, different articles that come out, because everything is shifting and it shifts so more dramatically now than it did 5 years ago. With the way the economy is, how the economy affects, the mortgage rates, how the mortgage rates are affecting the economy and back and forth. And, now you got what to throw in wildfires in there and natural disasters and everything else. You've got to stay on top of the knowledge of, hey, this is what has just changed. And it just changed a week ago, a month ago, 3 months ago, but you've got to have that knowledge so that you can translate that over to your clients and they understand why I bought a home 10 years ago. I didn't have to do this then. Well, yeah,
Mm.
well, a lot of things have changed in 10 years. 10 years ago, this is how it was done. Now we do it this way. This is the reason why we do it this way because this happened. And if you're able to have that knowledge and explain to your clients of, yeah, I understand you don't like doing it this way, but we have to, but here's why, and if you're able to explain that, they're like, okay, that makes perfect sense. We're good. Let's move forward. So I think knowledge is the backbone of keeping things together when the economy and market and everything is shifting so dramatically.
Okay. All right. So, Sean, for the veteran listening right now in our audience, maybe who recently transitioned into the civilian business world today and feels, overwhelmed by the lack of structure and discipline around it, what's one honest step they can take to start applying their military mindset to their new career?
You know, I, it matters who you work with, right? And it always comes down to that. It does matter who you work with. I'm very picky with the agents that I bring on because I want a good, solid group of core of agents that we all help each other and we all have each other's backs, and we are willing to do things for each other and be there for each other. That's the military mindset, right? The military mindset is we're always there for each other. So it matters who you work for and who you work with. If you're leaving a civilian sector and you're jumping into real estate, you've got all these questions. Like I said before, where am I getting my paycheck? How am I going to get business? Where am I going to get leads from? Where am I going to get my first closing from? There's all these things that are going through your head, but there's so many different things out there that you need to look at, and you need to just take your time, do your research. There's hundreds of brokerages out there. And even beyond that, there's a team culture, right? There's teams within those brokerages. And I started off on a team. I started off on a wrong team and quickly learned that that team was not right for me and moved to another team. And as soon as I moved to that other team, I was instantly successful. So you just have to do your research, right? You have to talk to people. You have to talk to agents. You have to talk to brokerages. You have to talk to teams. You have to talk to team leads and see what's going to be the best value for you, because each one of them is structured differently and each one of them brings different value. You want to do a ton of marketing because you have a marketing background and you want to work for a company that's got a ton of marketing. Great. Maybe you want to make the most money and pay the least amount of what we call splits or fees. Great. There's brokerages for that too. You just have to do your research and figure out what is a good fit for you and what your goal is and how that brokerage or how that broker or how that agent or how that team is going to help you achieve that goal.
Okay, thank you for sharing that, and I hope it helps the listener or the veteran in the position I'm getting need to hear this. So, Sean, here's a person I want for you. This is one question I like to ask majority of my guests on this podcast. So, tell us, what does success mean to you today?
Success sometimes is defined by money. Success is defined by stature. Success is defined by a lot of things. But for me, it's happiness, right? If you're not happy, are you ever successful? Money, everybody wants money, and the world revolves around money. But success for me is I can go and travel the places I want to go to, go and do things that I want to do, pick up new hobbies along the way, go meet new people. And success to me is I've built my business to the point where I can go do things. I can go travel for 2 or 3 weeks at a time if I wanted to at any given time. I can go explore different places, meet new people, have new experiences in life. And that's what it's about is experiencing life. Everybody's like, I got to work really, really hard until I can retire at the age of 60 or 62 or 65. But you look back at everything that you gave up to be successful and to retire, and I don't really consider that success. I'd rather be happy in a
Mm,
place where I thoroughly enjoy myself and enjoy my life. That's what success means to me. And right now, I feel like I'm successful. I enjoy my life. I enjoy where I'm at. I enjoy the people I surround myself with. I enjoy the relationships that I have. And that's what success is for me.
awesome, awesome. Sean, that's a profound meaning you've attributed to success. And thanks for sharing it with us. So, to wrap things up here, for our listeners who are ready to bring military discipline into their own business and wants to learn, more about the Reno-Tahoe market and maybe connect with you to have a conversation, where is the best place for them to go?
I'm on social media and Facebook, Sean Sells Nevada, Shaun Guardanapo on Facebook. I've got a website, SeanSellsNevada.com. Pretty easy to find. You can Google search my name, Shaun Guardanapo, and my name pops up everywhere. My phone number is widely available on the internet. So easiest way is find me on socials, Sean underscore sells underscores Nevada. Find me on Instagram. That's probably the best. Facebook, Shaun Guardanapo. Send me a message there. They're both business profiles. I respond reasonably quickly. Go to my website, SeanSellsNevada.com, or just Google my name and find me. I'm everywhere. You can find me. I'm not hard to find.
All right, Sean. It has been a truly valuable conversation with you here today, sir, and I thank you very much for, taking the time to join us on FailCraft.
All right. Thanks for having me, Ezekiel. I really appreciate you.